early for practicing his own routing. We can see it's paid off. Looks like the runners are starting now.
Both going to the house and getting a piece of heart right off the bat, something that they didn't see, all that many of in their last race. They'll be seeing a lot more of them today.
20 potential hearts in the seat on normal mode. This is going to be, easy for these runners.
Pretty much an early map check with Ice Palace as the green pendant. I saw T-Rock as the blue pendant. I want to say a red crystal at pod.
I think that's right, yeah. A red crystal over at pod, so some very good information early. One pendant and one red crystal still going to be hiding out in the light world. Of course, we are playing inverted mode today, which means runners start in the dark world and have to make their way to the light world. Ganon has gotten very nefarious with his machinations and swapped the worlds entirely.
Yeah, and to top it off, this is an Uncle Assured sword, which means that Uncle has a sword, which is not really all that helpful in inverted.
It's great because it gives you that incentive to go to the castle area right when you hit the light world. It's great for knowing there's a sword, and it decreases the chance you might have to run Aghanim at the start of the race because there will be fewer swords available. We're seeing a big divergence in the runners right now.
Yep, Kyong going for a nice little bomb farm over here in Skull Woods. Rywek, meanwhile, playing the arrow game, which gets you free rupees, because that'll get him to the digging game.
Yeah, he profits just over 100 rupees by doing that arrow game perfectly, which there's a very consistent setup for he was using. And now he can go to digging game, and we'll probably see him save and quit and check the village after this.
Meanwhile, Kyong going to go through the rest of Skull Woods. That drop down by the big chest gives you 2 bombs per time you pick up those pots, so it's a very good starting point. And then you kind of just take the time to go around to the other locations in here and see if maybe there's something a bit more valuable long-term in there.
Well, so far a piece of heart out of Skull Woods is not too great, but Rywek, after many, many digs, comes up with 3 bombs at the digging game, which, at the start of an inverted seed, you're not going to turn down.
And it saves him from having to go out of his way to go to Hype Cave like Kyong is doing right now, so it's a nice little plus to pick those up from the south route.
Oh, and a heart container right at the start of Hype Cave. That's always nice for inverted. A bow, more bombs, and the magic mirror. I'm actually going to give that some hype.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially inverted. The mirror is borderline OP and inverted, so that's pretty fantastic.
And looks like Kyong's going to take that 100 rupees we also saw in Hype Cave and head over to Stumpy in the digging game himself. Rywek now headed to the village. You know, that bow is great to find because it means we can get further into Palace of Darkness once we get there. We still need a hammer or some flippers to actually get over to that area right now.
Yep, or in the sequence break scenario, the boots would also serve the purpose of getting over there, but not the in-logic purpose. That said, in inverted, you're usually low health doing some pretty tricky stuff, and sometimes if you get that chance to kind of sequence break around some of this early stuff to stuff a little bit easier, you take it not so much just for the sequence break, but for the little bit making your life easier type of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of quality of life stuff that is hard to come by in inverted. Rywek is doing a very good job just avoiding these mummies, avoiding the wall masters, and manipulating this statue. But it's taken him a couple tries to actually line it up. Now he's set up to pull it straight back. He's going to check a chest here that Kyong didn't make his way back to. Time consuming, but if this is big, it could really help him out.
Well, I mean, it's something.
You know, I'm almost never, ever happy to find 10 arrows in a chest, but when the bow is my only weapon, it's not that bad.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, there are a lot of situations where that would have been very disappointing. Bow with 0 arrows, I'm okay with it.
Usefully for Rywek, when he goes through here and gets his piece of heart, that's going to be his second item out of Skull Woods, which is all of the items he can usefully get. And he'll be able to put off coming back here until he's got the Fire Rod and as much sword as he wants to take on Moth quickly.
Very true, and Kyong's going to be a little bit further forward going into the Village of Outcasts here. He didn't do that middle chest in Skullwoods, and that'll be kind of the time difference between the two.
It's okay, there's arrows in the C-shaped house.
Everybody gets 10 shots of a weapon. They better make them count.
Alright, down in the bombable hut, Kyong finds that hammer that I was kind of expecting would show up soon. That does make Thieves Town fully clearable at this point.
Yep, and the question then becomes, do you go into Thieves Town and go for the low health blind, or do you decide to maybe take that hammer over to Pod?
You know, a lot of the time I'd head to Pod with the current equipment I have, but with only 4 hearts and no lamp, even for Kyong, this dark room is a little bit scary. On the other hand, 4 heart hammer blind, it's not fun, but it's very doable. So I think while you're in this area, you do what you can in Thieves Town.
I think that's a pretty good way to look at it, and Kyong seems to agree, heading right in here.
And, you know, hopefully you get another heart container, and then you do 5 heart dark maze in Pod. 5 heart turtle room without lamp. The extra heart does make a fair amount of difference.
It really does, and if they find a glove or something, then you've just got the world available to you. You could even go over to Eastern Palace and Mire to Pod. So there are definite, like, routing benefits that could come from making this choice instead of the other one.
That's right, we did get the Moon Pearl out of the chess game. Rywek's got it now. And that does open up Dark World as soon as we see gloves. On the plus side, Aga's not going to be required for this seed, because to get up to Aga Tower, we would need the gloves, which is going to get us straight into the Dark World, or the Light World as it is.
Yep, of course, there's always the possibility of that lumberjack tree having something, but not something that you really bet on compared to the about 1 in 3 chance of needing Aghanim to get to the Light World to begin with.
So no items really of interest from the front half of the dungeon. Kyong takes a couple hits, but he is making his way through the back half, and we'll probably see him check the hint tile as well. Rywek just leaving the front half now, so close behind.
And Kyong made a point of getting some hearts back, and then kind of immediately took another hit, but makes it through the Hellway right away, which is actually very impressive.
And learning that a compass and some bombs are on the left side of Misery Mire is actually one of the better hint tiles we can get. That eliminates one of the items in the dungeon. More importantly, means we're not wasting our time on that cutscene chest.
I feel like the current implementation of hints is more likely to have a hint that is good because it tells you there's something worthless somewhere than there is a chance of actually being like, hey, I need to do this.
Hey, that's a good way of putting it. Oh, and there's a glove upstairs in Thieves Town for Kyong, soon to be for Rywek too. So that's Dark World access. Or Light World.
And that also means that they can go get a sword whenever they want to, since they know where one is at. They don't have to keep up with the hammer being their only weapon for very long here. Rywek entering into the Hellway. He's got a little bit worse starting RNG there than Kyong did, but he has a lot more health and makes it through no problem.
Oh, and that was a really good time to pick up gloves because Kyong could just lift the block here. He can check his map by accident as well. And the gloves don't make him do that. But being able to pick up that block instead of having to kill every enemy and go around to the left, that's... I mean, both runners would do it if they didn't have gloves, but it's really convenient.
Yeah, that rock that I think everyone, when they played this game as a child, thought you needed those Titan's mitts from the big chest to pick up. And then one day you just try to pick it up with the regular gloves, and you're like, oh, this is nothing special.
You'd only think you need the Titan's mitts because they're in that dungeon. It's a huge rock, and they're right next to each other. The game is only sending you many signals that it's required.
If I recall correct, I might be wrong on it, but I think they changed that on the Game Boy Advance remake, where it actually does require the Titan's mitts. So they meant for it to be a thing, it just, they didn't actually program it to be a thing.
Kyong going into the hammer blind fight with full health of 4 hearts gets a very nice phase 1. A lot of this fight is about just understanding how you're going to get knocked back from using that hammer, and understanding that hammer hitbox so that your hits don't go missing. Down to 2 hearts now, he's got to be a bit careful. Oh, very clutch finish to the fight.
Yeah, just before that fireball hit him, blind went down and it disappeared. That was very, very well finished there.
It's a good thing every sprite in the room, every enemy disappears as soon as you get that kill on the boss. But a nice fight from Kyong overall. Less than 12 minutes in, we have a crystal.
Yeah, we're also heading to the light world right now, it appears. And for those less familiar with the blind fight, if you have a sword, blind on low health is easy, because it's, scripted. If you know what you're doing, you can get the same fight every time. But that relies on pokes to make sure that you do an insta-hit every time blind is vulnerable. With the hammer, you can't really get that timing as well, so it kind of is a lot more difficult to do consistent.
Rywek has a very good first phase as well, but blind's going to move to the bottom and down to 1 heart. This may not go so well for him as it did for Kyong. Oh no.
A very unfortunate death, but he'll be able to come back with a sword if he decides to leave here, which he does. He knows he's got light world access.
Yeah, that's an important call to make, is to understand when it's just not worth it to stay in a dungeon. We did get a map check from Kyong, and we see that the last pendant's up in Tower of Hera, which is kind of nice because it's such a long walk to get there in inverted. And the remaining red crystal over in Desert Palace, which means we are going to need that book because it's the only way into Desert.
The book is one of the nightmare items of Inverted. Kyong mirroring over in Skull Woods to go check this middle chest now, so this is going to give Rywek a little bit of that time left from earlier on. Time back from earlier on.
Oh, and Kyong left the room because a mummy was in his way, but when he stepped back down, Wallmaster just grabbed him. Oh, now a death to the Gibdos. This is a rough attempt to reach the room. It's a hard room to get into because you have so little health. So few times you can just walk into an enemy.
And you could go get the sword from Uncle and use that to make this many, many times easier. But then you gotta make another trip up here, whereas if you just do it now, you don't have to walk up here again.
Yeah, there we go. Kyong is through this room. Over on Rywek's side, we saw 2 interesting things happen. First, he got the cape from the Thieves' Hut in the Lost Woods. Also interesting was that the tree pull he did gave him a full 80 rupees. If these guys end up needing Zora money that knowledge is going to come in handy.
Yeah, getting a nice big tree pull as the number 2, as the tier 2, where you've killed 4 enemies or more and taken damage. You're pretty much always going to be in that situation when you go to try to for a tree pull, so having it be valuable is nice when it happens.
Yeah, we see Kyong get that knowledge right now as well. Rywek checks on the bumper cave ledge, finds out it's just some arrows, so that cape is not required for getting that item. And we learn that Aga is entirely dead, since it's just 50 rupees under that lumberjack tree.
Yep, and Rywek not heading right to Kakariko, he's actually going over here to the graveyard ledge in the back of Escape. Gonna knock out these checks, probably walk out of Sanctuary to check that one as well. As those unfamiliar with Inverted might see, a couple of things have been changed on the overworld to make them actually reachable, since, you know, with your Mire going from light world to dark world, you wouldn't be able to get the graveyard ledge and a few other locations in any way with the default map.
Yeah, and you know what? Going to that graveyard ledge is also great because there's all these bombs underneath the pots. If you're not at full, it's a good place to kind of get a free restock, which will come in handy because they need all these bombs for Kakariko, and even for the back of Escape where Rywek is now.
Which rather unfortunately only had a small key, a map, and 20 bucks, so that was pretty much useless, but Rywek can go for the dark room.
The real challenge in this room is taking out that key rat to get the small key. Rywek got it fast enough that the rat did not escape from him. That was very clean, and it'll be easy for him now to get through the sewers and pick up that middle chest.
And Kyong is not going for this right now, so if there's something useful here, it's going to be a little bit of a benefit to Rywek that Kyong might not get for quite a while. It's just a heart container. Then yeah, where you normally see people, you know, save and quit out of the back of Escape, both of these two walking out of here, because when you can't just respawn in Sanctuary, it's kind of annoying to go for that chest if you don't just do it with the back of Escape.
Yeah, that's an important one, and I've seen a couple of runners end up skipping it for various reasons in Inverted Seeds. So I always get really relieved when both runners go there. It's one of those ones, if you miss it, you will not think of it later.
I know I have missed it before, and thankfully it hasn't bitten me, but it'll happen someday. So now on to Kakariko, the motherload of chests over here. So far, just a bottle and a heart container in Blind's hut as the only things to note.
I was about to say, it's too bad we don't have a bottle yet. You always want one of those when you get to Kakariko. And there we are, a bottle for these runners. With blue potion, nonetheless.
Pretty much the best kind of bottle. But yeah, it's one of the benefits for the Kakariko check in Inverted usually is that, hey, you got more stuff so you can get more stuff done while you're here, and they didn't really have that coming in.
We are getting so much health at this point. There's another heart container for Kyong. And a treasure trove of rupees in the well. If we want, we could do Zora. Probably not just yet.
I want to say 830 is enough to do everything else that requires money that's possible in the seed.
Oh, very definitely.
Worth noting that the bottle vendor had the Bombos medallion, which, gives them the opportunity once they get flippers to jump into Ice Palace if they want.
Yeah, we do need a sword for that, of course, but we do know where one is. It's hiding over at Uncle, and the guys will be getting that soon. More importantly, though, they've just picked up a lamp, so that makes for a really, really nice dark or light world loop they're going to do here. They can end up over in the eastern area, do eastern, mirror, do pod. All of it's going to be in logic. This is kind.
Yeah, this is setting up well, so now it's a question of what's going to go terribly wrong as the seed goes on.
Well, Turtle Rock's a pendant, so we probably don't have to worry about the ice rod. There is that question of the book, though.
Okay, I wasn't sure why Kyong had skipped the library check. He's actually put it off so he could go over here and Mire and grab the Blacksmith while he's in the area, which is quite a nice bit of routing by him.
This is a really good way to chain all these things together. You can even see in the light world here, for inverted mode, a bunch of these bushes were removed just so that mirroring to grab the Blacksmith was possible. Now Kyong can take him home. Rywek on the right side has gone back into Thieves Town. Now that he's got a lot more health, he feels confident he can take on Blind. Doesn't want to leave it sitting there. This is good timing to do this, especially with Mire.
Yep, and with that blue potion in tow, even if things go horribly wrong on the blind refight version of the fight, he has almost a full 20 hearts worth of health to make use of here, so there should be no issue. Blind, of course, is harder when you go back into the fight, since he starts at the top of the room instead of working his way up there. You got less room to set up that first phase, so definitely more difficult, but when it comes to Hammer, it's about as difficult a fight.
Oh, very conveniently for Kyong, there's a sword right in Hammer Peg's cave. Now, Rywek's going to be a bit disappointed he didn't get that before he went back into the blind fight, I think, but he'll be getting that soon enough. More importantly, he does have his first crystal now.
Yeah, but it will be interesting to see if Rywek makes the point to chain all that together, including the hammer pegs. It's definitely a good bit of routing, but it's one of those ones that you need to be a bit familiar with inverted to actually come up with on the fly. Of course, Rywek picking this mode in the hopes that Kyong was less experienced with it. I expect him to do so, but can't guarantee it. It's not a straightforward thing as a lot of options.
So far, it looks like he knows what he's doing. You can tell that because he's skipped the library check for the moment. Gonna duck back in there, returning from Dig Game. Purple Chest has a big 300 for Kyong, so we've gone from more than enough money to more than enough money.
Now into the territory of buy all the safeties you want because you don't have to worry about anything ever again. I'm a bit jealous seeing these high rupee totals in a seed this early because they can get everything.
I love that hint. A shovel is in Ganon's tower. It almost certainly won't lead to anything you need for progression, and now you don't have to worry about the shovel showing up.
What if the boots are buried?
No.
I have to be that guy there. I have to point it out. Literally the only way that shovel could be important. The only option.
If that happens, I will be very, very mad with the randomizer site today. Because that's just cruel.
That would be just cruel.
Rywek did return the Smith. He's going to get his sword here. But Kyong is kind of ahead at this point. Made his way down to Mini Moldorm Cave. Going to get the 5 items from here.
Yep, they were very close until Rywek had to go back into Thieves Town for the blind fight. So it's not a big difference, but Kyong has definitely made use of that good execution on blind to take a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, unfortunately, that advantage does not turn into anything for him in Mini Moldorm Cave. Just bombs, arrows, rupees, nothing he's interested in at this point. He's going to make his way over to Ice Rod Cave right now, rather than dive straight for the dungeons. This does make a bit of sense since it takes so long to get into the light world in Inverted, and he doesn't want to orphan this location and leave it too far out of the way.
And we might also see the least known hint tile in the entire game coming up.
That's right. It is way too much work to get over here if you're not playing Inverted. It is not worth checking this one hint tile. But when you can just mirror from Ice Rod Cave and figure out that the Pyramid Fairy isn't required today, that is worth your time.
Yep, Inverted is where that hint tile shines, and today it's actually a useful hint. The downside being that our red crystals are, not the toughest things to clear. We got Pod we can already clear, and Desert, which we are potentially just a book away from. So it would have been available early, but it saves some time knowing you don't have to.
Oh, and another divergence here. Rywek not going over to Mini Moldorm Cave after the dam. Instead, headed to the desert area. So Agina's Cave, Checkerboard Cave. If he gets something here, I think it'll be a while before Kyong makes his way over here. It's quite out of the way.
Yep, this is one of those plays where it might even be a matter of, I know who my opponent is, let me go do something that he's not going to do.
Yeah, Rywek's in such an interesting position in this race. He's down a game, so he needs to win today to stay in the tournament. He knows he's the underdog. He feels like that because of what happened in that game 1. Very nice mirror lineup from Kyong here. I would say Kyong knows his Inverted very definitely. But Rywek's finding himself in a position, I think especially after that Death to Blind, where he knows he's going to have to do something to make up some time. More than he thought before. So we might see him do some of those out-of-the-way locations first to try to make up that time difference. We might see him do some skips, understanding that, okay, if an item's here, I'll just lose the race because of that. But he's going to have to keep that stuff in mind if he wants to get a lead. While I was talking, did we see some sharp things?
We did see a sharp thing. That's a nice little perk for making that trip over there, getting the Master Sword. And also we found out that Misery Mire requires Quake to open, so will be a while before we can get in there. It is pretty unfortunate that all that Rywek got from that, check of 4 items was just a sword, but nobody's gonna complain finding a tempered sword a lot earlier.
No, absolutely not. That is one of the best damage boosts you can get in the game, going from Mastered to Tempered. Looks like Rywek's going to do South Shore now before he heads up to the Uncle to grab his, well, it'll be Tempered Sword for him.
He's pulling out the Bombos medallion to just get rid of all these mini Waldorms.
Well, Kyong just got the Ice Rod down in Escape, and chat's pointing out to us. Kyong also found the Flippers in the Uncle's secret tunnels, so Flippers absolutely required for Swamp Palace. And Ice Rod Required if we have to go beat Turtle Rock for some terrible reason.
If I was actually just about to mention those flippers, and they open up one thing in particular at the moment, and that's Ice Palace with that Bombos medallion. For those less familiar with Inverted, Ice Palace just has an open front door in this mode. You can swim straight there from the Dark World, you don't need the Titan's Mitts. They also have the Mire, which they could just use to get in there as well. Yeah, that's the kind of gamble play you could make. It's Green Pendant Ice Palace, that's 4 items, 3 hints in there. It's a lot of potential value, but it's also potentially entirely unrequired.
Yeah, the other thing about it right now is, without going into it, we have no idea if the runners are kind of expected to beat it right now. There might not be enough small keys at the start, in which case we'd need the Hookshot to beat it, logically. There might not be enough small keys throughout the whole dungeon, so we might need the Cane of Samaria, logically, to beat it. But the runners might just decide, I don't care about that, I'm just going to go beat the dungeon with bomb jumps.
It's very true. The logic side of things is a bit messier, but let's be honest, no one in this tournament cares about the Ice Palace logic beyond what does this tell me about where items can be.
Yeah, and that is something that some of these runners do try to make reads into to figure out where they should go. I do like this play from Kyong and maybe from Rywek soon as well, heading straight over to the eastern area, because you've got 2 crystal dungeons here, 8 items between them, and they are all unquestionably within logic.
Yep, 100% the most straightforward play, and Rywek doesn't know it, but this sequence break he's doing is not really a sequence break. He's just, probably the next check he does is going to get him his flippers, so... Despite the world flipping, this water walk glitch that relies on the Moon Pearl for some reason works the exact same in Inverted, so just swim back out and hey, you're walking. Oh, that paid off. I mean, not the most valuable item in this mode, not necessarily required, but that's a lot of locations that just opened up.
Yeah, mitts are so strange in Inverted. The only place they absolutely strictly lock is the King's Tomb. And you also need boots to get anything out of there. But some seeds, they will be your access to the entirety of East Death Mountain. That's a lot of chests over there. And sometimes that's how you get into the back of Turtle Rock, if you don't have the Hookshot. So, it could be good for Rywek that he's picked that up.
So if you're Rywek, do you keep going with the expected Eastern and Pod play, or do you maybe make that play up Death Mountain and make use of the boatload of chests up there?
I think at some point you do this Eastern Pod play that Kyong's doing. There are going to be times where Rywek has to deviate from what he thinks Kyong is doing. But this isn't one of them. There's kind of no way to avoid doing these 2 dungeons. So I think you just have to do them at the start. And if you get progression, you decide whether or not you're following that progression. But I can't imagine a seed where you don't end up clearing all of Pod looking for items.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and especially since Rywek is headed up this way to Uncle, once he finds out that those Titan's Mitts are in logic, I think that takes a little bit of the benefit away from just jumping at Death Mountain, honestly.
Yeah, that's a very good point. If he had sequence broken them, he might think, okay, I want to leverage the sequence break and do something different. When he gets them within logic, he goes, okay, Kyong probably has these mitts as well. He might be on that path too. I might want to stick away from that. There's a lot of mind game that kind of goes into play when you feel like the underdog. But that's not to say Kyong's exempt from it. He has to keep that in mind, that Rywek might be trying to throw a curveball at him, and Kyong has to make sure he doesn't get blindsided or outrouted like that.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance that people who go into races knowing their opponent thinks that they're a clear advantage holder have to deal with, just in terms of, you know, okay, my opponent might gamble, but do I know what gambles they're going to take? Can I just straight up counter it? Do I need to just play like normal and hope that it doesn't pay off? It's a lot of thought process that goes into both sides of the equation there.
Meanwhile, Kyong had a fairly clean Eastern Palace, just missing the quick kill on Armos, but he had plenty of arrows to take that angry red Armos down even after it healed. That is a second crystal for him, although Eastern Palace didn't end up really giving him anything.
Yep, and he is going to go check Sahasrara and then mirror over right into the maze where Kiki is hiding, and then be able to walk right over there. It's a very, very clean bit of routing to do it this way.
Yeah, this is an important thing to keep in mind, that a lot of newer runners to Inverted won't think of. They'll think, oh, Sahasrara is closest, I'll just do that first. We do get a Tempered Sword and a shield in there, so Rywek will soon be on Butter's sword. His sword advantage is not going to pay out for him.
Yep, and worth noting, there at the onset of Inverted, you could actually mirror right from Eastern into Pod without ever talking to Kiki, but the devs hard-coded in a variety of bonk spots, or mirror bonk spots, to make sure that stuff like that couldn't be done. But yeah, you could definitely just mirror right into Pod at the early stages of Inverted.
Now that is something I hadn't heard. Doesn't surprise me at all. That's very neat.
And in useless information of the day, Pod is not bow locked. You know, we have the bows. That's completely useless information, really. But hey, it's information.
I do like that bow hint that we saw in Eastern Palace, saying bow was in Hype Cave, which in a not inverted seed would be great to know, and in inverted mode just really doesn't help you.
I actually entirely missed what that hint said, but yeah, it's a great example of why those don't bother with this hints are usually more valuable.
Oh, a unique item is held with the fishes. That is looking pretty good, since Rywek didn't get anything unique from King Zora.
Yeah, so might be catfish. I don't think the waterfall is counted in that. I'm kind of blanking on that bit.
Yeah, I've got my eye on a catfish having something right now. Right side of Pod has keys so far for Kyong. 3 small keys total so far. There's going to be one more hiding in the front half of the dungeon, at minimum. If you do the right side and you only get a couple keys, you can often start skipping chests in the front because you know they're just going to be keys. But when you got this many already, you're going to have to check things like this vanilla big key chest.
Yeah, I like the routing that tries to avoid having to check this chest, but a lot of times it ends up where you gotta go there and hey, vanilla big key. It's so good to have before going to the back because, you know, you're gonna want to be able to check that big chest and not get that key last.
I think he's come to the conclusion that the chest down in the pit is going to be another key for him. Nice setup on the hammer jump. Gets a mirror from the big chest.
I believe he actually opened that drop-down chest before doing right side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I recall that now. I'm awake.
Either way, though, it would have been another small key, because you'd gotten two things that weren't small keys from the front to begin with, and that's the maximum.
So, we haven't actually seen any progression out of Palace of Darkness yet, have we?
We have not, which the fact that neither of these dungeons are paying out right now is not expected in the least.
I was really hoping we'd see something, especially with how early that bow showed up. But $20 in the Harmless Hellway. If this is going to pay out, it's going to be on Helmasaur King.
Yep, and he does have an item. We do have both map and compass already, so there's gonna be something there, and you would think that it would be something valuable. And then we get there, and it's probably gonna be like the bug net, and we're just gonna be like, oh, well, okay.
So after Helmasaur King, where do these runners go? They've got a fair amount of stuff open to them, dungeon-wise.
Yeah, for Rywek, I think he has a straightforward answer. He'll go up for that Death Mountain play, 'cause he can do so much up there. Kyong, without those Titan's mids, has a lot more variable options, I'd say.
Yeah, Swamp Palace is on the table, but you can't finish that without the Hookshot. Unless Hookshot's in Swamp Palace, and I'd be lying if I said that hadn't happened many times in this tournament. Ice Palace is open, but it's only a pendant, although there are 3 hints. And
Even without the myths, you got Death Mountain for Super Bunny Cave and the Old Man item and Spectacle Rock.
the other possibility, of course, is that he takes that hint that he saw in Palace of Darkness saying, hey, something's with Zora or Catfish, and he heads up to that area, which could work out well for him, because he'll get those Titan Spits too. Bit of a hairy Phase 1 in the Helmasaur King fight, but he powers through Phase 2, doesn't get hit anymore. That will be his 3rd crystal already.
Why? Why, game?
That's like the perfect time for Kyong to find that, though. Because if Zora and Catfish were already on his mind, he can just walk up that way and drop off Mushroom there. It's still terrible.
Oh, yeah.
The mushroom's absolutely awful in Inverted. I hate it. I hate it so much because there's no fast way to get to the witch's hut. But of the awful times, that's less awful.
I mean, there's a decently fast way to get to the witch's hut, just not as fast as regular. It's mostly just the delayed gratification on whether Helmasaur was important or not.
Oh, there's that too.
But yeah, Kyong will probably go through this little whirlpool here and end up right next to the witch's hut anyway. So definitely not at the level of just Flute to 2, but still pretty quick. You get here within like 30 seconds or so.
And we see Rywek is just now doing the front part of Palace of Darkness, so between kind of all the side checks Rywek's done and the dip back into Thieves Town. Kyong does have a bit of a lead here at this point. Almost a full dungeon ahead. But a lot of this is going to come down to where do they go next, and if one goes left, one goes right, who comes out on top with progression.
We did see a heart piece on the mushroom turn-in, so if Rywek decides to not do that, he could save back a little bit of time. It also just confirms that Pod and Eastern were entirely empty, which is actually crazy for how the seat has opened up.
You know, I was worried that Kyong had spent his mushroom and then wouldn't be able to fake powder if he got Samaria. Catfish really helped him out with that by giving him powder 2 minutes after.
If that unique item with the fishes turns out to be a fetch quest 2.0. But it did take Kyong right to those minutes, so I expect him to probably go up Death Mountain next and make use of all the stuff going on up there. Making the slow trip over here to Zora, who is not going to pay out today. In fact, unmentioned when Rywek got it, Kyong gets the ultimate life lesson. Now, he's walking out of Zora's domain. He's probably going to catch the Whirlpool to go check Hobo, but where he goes after that is kind of up in the air.
He's, surely he's not going to go straight into Ice Palace here. Right?
I would be surprised by it.
I would be surprised too, and, you know, Death Mountain takes a long time to get up to, but it's got so many chests, I have to think these runners might as well head up there now. It's the same as with the Pod Eastern play we talked about earlier. You're going to have to go to Death Mountain at some point, so take care of it earlier.
Yeah, I mean, the main argument against it would be they don't have the Hookshot yet, so they can't do Hookshot Cave, and they'll be leaving stuff there, but Hookshot could very well be in the other, 15 locations up there, and you want to get that eventually.
Yeah, and you know what I'm just realizing? Laser Bridge. Laser Bridge is open to us.
It's very true. Fully in logic with the cape, and that, as well as the metal segments of TR in general, the vanilla big key chest, the chain chomp room, the crystal roller room, depending on the big key location.
Yeah, Turtle Rock might not need to be completed today, since it's only a pendant, but with the potential for easily accessible items at this point, the runners should be doing it.
Despite the very, very slow trip to save the old man, having to walk him all the way up the mountain to jump all the way back down the mountain to actually return him to the cave. So Rywek coming up on Helmosaur King, going to be getting his Disappointment Mushroom soon, as Kyong is up here on Death Mountain.
And another piece of heart. 12 hearts less than 15 minutes into this race. This is almost too generous, I'd say, especially when the runners are rocking Tempered and Butter Sword between them.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot that's going to go wrong when you have the ability to kill pretty much anything in one hit.
Yeah, Rywek needs to be just a bit careful in this Helmasaur fight. He's down to 6 hearts, so he can take 2 hits safely. The third one will take him out. But if he gets to phase 2, 2 slashes with the sword will finish the boss.
Let's take that first hint, and hey, we get a hint about what's on Graveyard Ledge, a thing that both of them have already done.
Rywek down to 2 hearts, but finishes Helmasaur. And Kyong shows off that nice bomb jump that no one really learned until the hint system came out. And then everyone started going through Spectacle Rock Cave in almost every seed. Nice way of getting out.
I gotta love that bomb jump that is incredibly lenient on, vertical pixels and incredibly strict on horizontal ones. Now over to Super Bunny Cave, in which in inverted is a pretty useless name because it's one of the few caves you can't Super Bunny into that have items.
And we get Blue Mail for Kyong, which he really doesn't need, but it will help him go a bit faster.
As if all that damage, if all that health and damage weren't enough, here, have some defense too. Just, to make sure that you're comfortable.
But Rywek is over in the light world, over at the lake area. What is he up to? Is he going to do the catfish and mushroom play?
As I say, this looks like, Mire, you take the portal here, then you mirror right the catfish. He knows there's a unique item there. Whether he'll do the mushroom or not, I don't know, but he's definitely getting this catfish check out of the way.
Now this will give him powder, which, at the very least, you're not going to complain about having. Unfortunate mirror bonk there, though. This works for him.
Also, worth noting that T-Rock required ether, so neither of the dungeons have a medallion that we actually have, but the T-Rock medallion is pretty much meaningless and inverted, so meh.
Yeah, there's a couple of situations where logically the game would say, I expect you to have this medallion just in case you use your keys poorly, but you're using your keys in a way that no good runner would do at that point. So we are not going to need that ether medallion to see all of Turtle Rock.
First
Please.
Justin Paradox Cave, worthless.
Please give us some progression. Something, somewhere.
Let's go Laser Bridge. 3 bombs, $5. A book! That's progression. Boomerang, and a heart piece.
Book is definitely progression. It's for the other side of the map, but it does get us into desert finally.
Notably a desert which we might be locked out of immediately due to a boots lock. So, I mean, it opens one location for sure, and maybe some more.
This is actually a fantastic place to get the book, though, because one of the things you can do with the book is check the ether tablet, which is a huge pain to get to in inverted mode. Even worse than normally. So the ability to check that...
Rywek is doing the thing.
This is that divergence that we were saying might happen.
If it's a bold move, it's one that may end up hurting him more than it helps. But if there's something here, Kyong will put off Ice Palace as long as he can.
Yeah, and Kyong did not come up with anything from the laser bridge in Turtle Rock. So we've still got other parts of the dungeon open to us. As well as, Tower of Hera. But that, like Ice Palace, is a pendant.
Yep, and as you were mentioning, the Ether Tablet, maybe that'll be something, but it's looking like that book is going to be the main draw of the mountain.
I'm being called out on saying that Kyong found nothing on Laser Bridge. He did find the silver arrows, and those are definitely a time save. He's probably happy to have them. I'm not going to claim that they were required for him, though.
I don't know. The time it takes to jump down, go into Laser Bridge, do laser skip for that chest, it might be about even by the time you have Butter on Ganon save time versus the time it costs to get him.
Oh, it's a time save, no question. The Vitreous fight works as well. Lanmo fights, but certainly not required for these guys to finish the seed.
Very true. Very true. There are a couple other things that it can save time on, or at least make easier to not lose time on.
Rywek gets the bomb jump off in Ice Palace. Gonna continue through the dungeon. That first chest didn't really help him out, though. We're gonna have to see some creative routing for him to get to right side quickly.
Yep, and depending on what's in the next two chests, we might start to see where that key logic you talked about when I mentioned Ice Palace earlier comes into play. If he finds the big key in this next chest or the iced tea chest, then the right side is hookshot locked. If he finds a small key in one of those two chests, then it is not.
Of course, Ice Palace, very painful to do when you have to keep using bombos to get through it. Rywek's going to be happy he brought the potion, just in case his magic runs a little low from things. Kyong over in Tower of Hera is forced to do it the terrible way as well. Without the big key already, he has to wait through the tile room to get upstairs.
Choosing not to take a little coffee break, just running around with this pot over his head, protecting that pot from all the flying tiles.
That's an important plot. We can't just break... Oh, never mind.
It just had to be broken by the right tile, I guess.
Ooh.
Oh, that's an item.
That dip into Ice Palace for Rywek has already paid off. Cane of Samaria, absolutely required to finish Misery Mire. And potentially required to beat Turtle Rock. Or to do some stuff in Turtle Rock that they'll need.
Yeah, it's a pretty noteworthy pickup for Rywek, because nobody likes Ice Palace. Like, there's not like a contingent of people who are like, I love Ice Palace, I want to do it early every time possible. And Fire Rod in the Tower of Hera, another pendant, moments later. And kind of the flip side of what I was just saying, nobody likes doing Tower of Hera tile rooms, so the chances of Rywek skipping it, Tower of Hera and that Fire Rod are probably not that far removed from the chances of Kyong skipping Ice Palace and the Cane of Samaria.
Yeah, obviously they'll get funneled in there eventually, but it could be a while before we see who comes out on top from this weird divergence and exchange.
Incidentally, between the two of them, they can now clear Trinix.
That's right. They can. And that's exciting.
Actually, now that I think about it, with the fire rod and cane accounted for, the pedestal is in logic.
They can do that, and that's a little less exciting. It's a little terrifying watching Kyong because he got his second item out of Tower of Hera, and he just noped out of there. He did not want to go up and finish Moldorm. So if something is required there, that's going to hurt him. I think that's a calculated choice, though, because really, he's not missing much at this point. When we look at things that could potentially be on pedestal, I think it's down to boots being required.
There's one other one, which is, well, yeah, one other thing, and that could be the hookshot. Oh no, two things, hookshot or quake.
That's right. That's right. Those are possibilities. Speaking of Quake, I think Kyong is about to find out fairly soon Quake is required for Mire. He will also end up getting his Butter Sword as a result of this, but will not be able to get into that Quake or that Misery Mire dungeon.
And Ice Palace was very red, having the red cane and 2 big 20s, so the green pendant still might be a thing that's valuable. It looks like Rywek might be heading over to turn that in right away, but the cane was the big draw there.
Yeah, and of course, once he's done some of these overworld checks, Kyong's going to head into Desert Palace, and that will be an interesting moment of truth. Do we find out that the boots are required, or can we keep going by without those boots?
And a heart piece off the green pendant, so the cane of Samaria is all that comes from ice, and it will be interesting when Rywek gets up to the mountain, which it looks like he's heading to now. You know, you were talking earlier about how you feel like you kind of have to make plays that your opponent's not going to in a run like this. So he might go do that tower room in Tower of Hera because he thinks Kyong wouldn't. At which point he would get that fire rod. If you were him and that happened, would you just decide, you know what, I'm right here? T-Rock is right here, let's just do the thing.
You know, it'll be interesting in Rywek's position because he's going to do a lot more Turtle Rock on his first pass. I think before he even gets to Hera, he's not only going to do Laser Bridge, but he'll kind of enter in the middle, work his way back up to the Chomp Room. And then it's a question of, do you go back into Turtle Rock through the middle door, spend all that time just to get 2 Firelock chests on the right side once he has the Fire Rod? That'll be a weird call to make.
It will be, and we do learn Desert is not boots locked. It has a map on the torch. We also get a pretty useless hint about thinking that you might want a nice cup of tea.
I would. Thank you, game.
I mean, I wouldn't mind it, but it's not going to help us. It's not going to help us get through the seed at all.
Does mean Kyong's going to be able to clear up this dungeon right now while he's here, and that'll put him at 4 crystals when he's done. Including that Pyramid Crystal. Though we know Pyramid Fairy has nothing.
And there was the Ether Medallion, so if there was any doubt that Key Logic could, you know, not put T-Rock in Logic, well, that's gone now.
Yeah, a rude bounce between the corners of the map to go get it for Turtle Rock, but hey, at least we have it, and we have 2 items out of Desert, so that is done for Kyong other than fighting the boss.
Let's go deal with Lambolus with Silver Arrows, Tempered Sword, fire rod. He's got his choice of how to handle things, and they're all going to be quick.
So, we are starting to run out of options. Between the runners, we've covered most of the dungeons, except for a bit of stuff left in Turtle Rock. We've done most of the overworld. We know that we have all the items from Skull Woods. Are we going to find the Hookshot showing up in Swamp Palace today?
I'm not gonna lie to you, I would rather see the Hookshot on pedestal than in Swamp Palace. It's less rude.
It's very rude if that happens, but Swamp does have a lot of value, and you know, most of the stuff to get in the front door was available very early for these runners.
Yeah, that's very true. By the time we had Light World access, we already had access to Swamp Palace through the left side. You can't get to the back, but at least through the left side you can get to.
Yeah, now, there is another option, which is Quake could show up and let us into Misery Mire, but we do have that hint that says bombs are on the left side. That's one of the 2 items out of Misery Mire, so sure we'll have to beat it, but progression is not looking as likely in there.
Yep, and even if Quake did show up, we still need that hookshot or the boots to be able to do anything in the dungeon other than walk in the door and wave to the slimes.
So I think we both blinked at the same time. That must be what happened, because Kyong cleaned up Lanmo. Something about silver arrows makes that fight way faster.
Yeah, just a little bit quick on that front.
Looks like Kyong might be making that play over to Ice Palace. This will give him his Canis of Maria. This could really help him out.
If the advantage that Rywek gained is now entirely gone.
Yeah, Kyong's going to get to do a lot of this dungeon faster as well, in fact, because he gets to do it with Fire Rod. He doesn't have to wait on that terrible, terrible long Bombos cutscene.
It's a little bit less satisfying to kill the stuff with the Fire Rod, but it's a lot quicker and less annoying. But effectively, over the course of the last few minutes, these two have kind of flipped places, with Kyong sneaking in a desert clear in the middle.
Rywek will be very happy to find his book in this cave. Maybe a bit sad that he found it so late, but it's always nice when that book shows up, since it's basically the Ice Rod of inverted mode.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it locks 2 items instead of 1, but that doesn't really limit it anymore. Rywek is jumping in here to Laser Bridge before going across to Tower of Hera, so he will, as you mentioned, probably clear out the entire of this dungeon outside of the boss and those 2 Fire Rod chests.
Kyong having... Did he opt to use a potion there? Yeah, I think he did use a potion while doing the Ice Palace bomb jump, just to make sure he was at full health.
Not a bad idea to play it safe on that. An interesting note on this dark room in T-Rock here. If you ever go here without a lamp and you can't see the pathway, all you gotta do to get to this exit is hold up. Just walk in the room, place your tile down, and then hold up until you go through the stairs.
Yeah, it's particularly nice when you're coming through it backwards because there's nothing to worry about with hitting a switch. That door is already open. Nice setup for the bomb jump from Kyong. Very quick pulling that off.
Of course, we know that he didn't have to do that bomb jump. If he had checked one more chest down, he would have gotten a small key, could have just walked over here. But he gets to show off one of the fun bomb jumps instead.
That'll be Canis Samaria for him, and I think it's safe to say Kyong potentially has a bit of his lead back. A lot of it will depend on how much of Turtle Rock Rywek does and if he comes out with something really powerful.
Yep, he's getting down to the last couple checks here. He's got the chain chomp room and then that, first chest in the front. But that's about it on that front for the moment. Dealing with everyone's friends, the chain chomps kind of gets blocked from doing the plan he had for how to handle the room.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get some iframes by having the blocks come up under him, and they did, but he was a bit too far to the left.
Kyong continuing to show off why we should just rename Ice Palace Bomb Jump Palace, because no pits matter, you just jump over everything and go anywhere you want whenever.
Well, Rywek makes it all the way to the spike room in the front part of Turtle Rock, gets his big key, but nothing else just yet. Looks like he's going to wait on opening the big chest. Oh, I guess he had to leave that way. Maybe he'll open the big chest now?
Yeah, we'll either see him going over to the Hera area, or we'll see him dropping down to the Mimic Cave entrance and mirroring over for that big chest.
I love that little hesitation, that back and forth he did. It's something that every rando racer has done at some point. I'm going to go left. Nope. Hang on. How do I want to do this? And he comes back and he just gets a small key from the big chest. But it's always good to stop for a second and think, because if you just keep moving, you'll get far enough that you say, it's too far, I'm not going back now.
Yep, and then you end up going back just, an hour later, and you're sad, and your opponent is done, and you're still looking for that one item, and hey, I finally found it in that place I walked by earlier.
Yeah, Kyong on Cold Stare now. Use Bombos on Phase 1, and Buttersword just decimates this boss in Phase 2. 4 slashes in the corner, and that's green pendant for him. If he takes it to Sahasralite, it will only be a piece of heart, though.
And that puts him at about a 2 dungeon advantage, only one of which is a crystal, so we don't know if that pendant will matter at all. But he's got a crystal lead as well as up a pendant. Well, no, not up a pendant, because he didn't actually clear Hera. Never mind.
Yeah, Kyong's lead is getting fairly decisive here. Partly it's come down to some routing choices where he's just been able to do things a bit more efficiently, and partly it's come down to the fact that Kyong just runs through rooms faster than most players of this game.
Yeah, Rando always has an element of luck of the draw, finding the items, where you go. But on the other hand, you also got the the aspect of execution that pays off for you, and you see it on runners like Kyong's side, where that execution makes a big difference.
Oh, no question. It's why we keep seeing a similar set of runners in the brackets in the final stages of each tournament. Again, not that Rywek is a slouch at this game. It's just hard to keep up with Kyong. Very hard. There's a reason, as we've said before, that Kyong went 15-0 in group stages.
Also, I do want to make a note, because I think we both missed this when Kyong was there, but the first hint in Tower of Hera said there's a unique item in Misery Mire. So we know that there's a garbage item on the left side, and something unique on the rest of the dungeon.
That does make the rest of the dungeon more interesting. Though, as you pointed out earlier, we can step into Misery Mire. We can't do anything, even if we get the Quake Medallion. We need either the book or the boots or Hookshot.
And the pedestal is dead. Just pocket change. Move right along.
Kyong's going to be really pleased to see that, since he knows he left Tower of Hera early without finishing Moldorm. That was looking to be a potential advantage for Rywek if Head ended up being required and he needed to do the Moldorm fight.
So now we'll see if Rywek chooses to go fight Moldorm or Mire out as Kyong did. He got his Fire Rod. He'll be doing a little bomb jump here, most likely. No, he's going the vanilla way. That's the kind of bomb jump where if you mess it up, you lose quite a bit of time. So if you aren't feeling 100% on it at the moment, just do it this way.
Mm-hmm. And Kyong's doing Skull Woods right now, which he knows he's not going to get any items out of, but routes in very well with the ped check, and he has to do it at some point. That is one of the cleanest moth kills I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, that was fantastic. The spikes didn't screw him over. The moth didn't decide to hang out on the spikes. He just very quickly wrapped that up. Rywek wrapping up Spiral Cave. There's nothing that he really needs here, but you gotta get it done, because again, you don't want to leave that one spot.
Yeah, and we might see Rywek, now that he's in East Death Mountain, just go ahead and do the rest of Turtle Rock, including the potential Trinex fight if he wants to. It is a long trek through that whole dungeon, just to get to 2 Firelock chests. It's what would conventionally be the start.
Yeah, ideal routing for him would have been when he went to check that chest up in the front of T-Rock, he could have walked out the front door. That would have both left it open for him and given him a little bit easier path to that big chest. But
does that leave the front door open once you step out the front?
Yeah, it'll actually open the door regardless to make sure that you don't get stuck in the head when you walk out.
Huh. Cool. I haven't actually seen that happen before. That's cool.
It's a nice touch. It would have been, the ideal routing, but it would have required you to, A, know that, I might be getting the Fire Rod here soon and need to come back, which is a time loss that is not worth it if you don't. So, I mean, it's the right routing with all the information, but it's a very tough call to make without it.
Okay. Kyong did do the magic bat check as well when he was in that area, stringing things together nicely. Got some arrows for his trouble. But where is he headed now? Is this that dreaded hookless swamp play?
It appears to be. So, we could find a couple things in here. We could find the Hookshot, or we could find Quake and Boots, and the unique item in Misery Mire could be the Hookshot.
All these things sound terrible.
Yeah, there's no winning left. Every option left on the table is just bad.
Rywek initially goes north in the Torches room in Turtle Rock, then remembers, I don't have the hookshot, and is forced to go by the south loop.
Good job catching that, because I know a lot of people, myself included, tend to not catch that and just go on the whole loop around. Be like, wait.
First chest in Swamp Palace has just 20 rupees for Kyong. Location of Hookshot or Boots here could really turn this race upside down.
Speak of the devil.
That is massive for Rywek at this point. Just the kind of thing he needed to potentially get back in this race.
Yep, Kyong is going to be double dipping Swamp. One of the longest dungeons you can have to double dip because of having to redrain some water to get in there and everything. Rywek's going to be able to one-shot it probably right now.
Yeah, Kyong, does still have a 2-dungeon lead, which should not be discounted. Rywek has some ground to make up, but this is really going to help him. We might even see him do Swamp right now.
It looks that way, and it becomes a matter of when does Kyong make the play back up to T-Rock. I can't imagine it being too long because he doesn't have a whole lot of options, but I also can't imagine it being, the quickest thing just because he's going to do the rest of Swamp. He might try to do a couple of the scattered overworld things left over beforehand.
Now, it's worth pointing out, Rywek did something I've seen happen a fair amount in Inverted when you find the hookshot in Turtle Rock. He left, he saved and quit, and he skipped doing Hookshot Cave. So that's 4 items that potentially could have that Go Mode Quake in them.
Yeah, that's very true. I did not even think of that.
Because at this point, that is what we are looking for. Boots, they're always nice to have to make you go fast, but at this point, I don't think the runners worry about that 5% chance that the big key is on the torch. You just make your way to Ganon's tower.
Yep, and given what we know, there's a guaranteed boots hint, so I'm kind of guessing that other item in Mire is the boots.
Seems likely, I think.
Yeah, this is kind of coming down to this location of Quake, because Kyong doesn't have that many other options but T-Rock. He's going to be forced there before too long.
Now, Kyong's being very thorough doing the left side because he still has multiple items left for Go Mode. There's a big key, which is nice to have. I wonder if this is one of those cases where Rywek just goes straight to the back, because if he finds Quake along the way to Argus, he's in Go Mode and he can skip the rest of the dungeon.
Yeah, even without finding Quake in the back, I could see him skipping left side just to try to save some time. So we got a big key and bombs. Kyong had to do it the long walk around and double drop way. And he'll be going back to the big chest, and we'll see if there's anything of value on the left side.
Rywek is indeed going straight to the back of Swamp Palace.
So left side swamp blocking 6 bombs.
Well, this is good for Kyong. He is back up on Death Mountain. I think he's narrowed it down to Turtle Rock. That might even be the only place he can check. So he is focused on being up on this mountain. We'll see if he ends up doing a Hookshot Cave. That could solidify things for him if he checks it and it ends up having, say, Quake.
Yep, and he is walking past one of the other locations I had in mind that he might check, which is Spike Cave.
Have we not seen a Spike Cave check in this race?
I do not recall seeing one. I might have missed something, but I don't think we have.
This will work out in Kyong's favor because he's coming back here with the Ether Medallion he got in Desert. He can just walk in the front door. So he's going to find that hookshot sooner rather than later. Though there is that question, how much of the dungeon does he end up doing?
Chat pointing out that Kyong did apparently do Spike Cave, and I did in fact miss it. So, my bad. That said, if you get the hookshot here, coming in the front like this, as Kyong is, I think no matter what your plans with T-Rock are, you immediately mirror out and check Hookshot Cave.
I think so too. Rywek had a very clean Argus fight, especially in that phase 2 with a single silver, but no other items for him. In particular, no Quake.
Gives a couple of sword slashes as he sits there and thinks, do I want to go back in for these 2 items? Unfortunately, he chooses to do so.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to go back in, but he's decided to go back in. Now, he does have all of Desert open to him. The Bombos tablet, which Kyong checked, but he hasn't checked, also available. But I think he's just not wanting to leave anything behind. Unfortunately for him, it's what he has to do at this point.
And Kyong not immediately mirroring out. He's going to at least get this magic refill. We'll see what he does afterwards. No, he's going to keep going.
Yeah, he didn't check anything except Laser Bridge when he was in here earlier. So I think it makes sense for him to go through the dungeon from this end rather than try to leave, come back, leave, come back, leave, come back.
Yeah, the Hookshot Cave check is fast enough where I think that makes sense, and looks like he's going to mirror out. Now you got Chain Chomp Chest, check Hookshot Cave, and then continue on if need be. It's a pretty good decision there, actually, now I think about it, because the Chain Chomp Chest is very slow to get to from the middle. Everything else you can clear out pretty quickly from one re-entry.
So, I don't know about you, I'm expecting Quake to show up in these 4 chests in Hookshot Cave.
Yep.
There we are.
I'm thinking the same thing, but hey, there it is.
And Rywek's gonna call that go mode, doesn't even check the last 2 chests. He's probably thinking the same thing we are, that Misery Mire hint is pointing towards the boots, and he is headed there now.
Yep, and I mean, Rywek was not in the best of position when he got that hookshot, but had he checked Hookshot Cave right away and been in go mode, he could have started to make a nice little chunk of time back by go moding Swamp and everything. Unfortunately for him, he forgot to check Hookshot Cave and now is sizably behind. Kyong heading back into Swamp will go kill Argus. He's not going to have to check anything else, just run straight to the back. So it won't be too long. It's a slow double dip, but now that he's in go mode, he can at least skip everything else.
Yeah, doing Swamp here is nice just because it's directly on the way over to Mire.
Also, it was pretty nice to see the synced transition to opposite worlds going on at the entrance of Swamp.
An interdimensional high five.
So Rywek making the straightforward play, gonna come over here, clear out the desert, and then he'll be at a point where he pretty much has to go, oh, maybe I should have checked Hookshot Cave.
Yeah, I can't think of many places throughout this race that he's actually left behind beyond Hookshot Cave, so this should end up narrowing it down.
I do gotta say, I think Rywek played this seed very well for the situation going against Kyong. He was a bit bold with his plays, but he didn't do any crazy gambles. He didn't do anything that was an unreasonable play to make just to make it. All his plays made sense. Unfortunately, just the order he did things has kind of left him in a bit of a deficit in terms of the speed of getting through stuff. I feel like a lot of people completely change their playstyle, go for those huge gambles when they're playing against someone they feel like they're the underdog against. Instead of just being a little bit, I'm going to bet on this thing a little bit earlier than I would, but I'm still going to be thorough. I'm still going to play this like I normally would.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that actually for both runners, their routing has, and the layout of the seat has kind of forced them to end up doing full clears of everything with all the bouncing back and forth and double dipping areas required. And when it comes down to that, it's all about the efficiency of your routing, how many checks you can string together, and how fast you run through the game, how fast you execute. And those are the areas Kyong shines in.
Yeah, that's why you see a lot of people picking all dungeons when they feel they got the execution edge, because the more the seed forces you back and forth like this, the more those seconds you're saving on execution add up and start to bring you some more benefit. We are about to see Rywek take on Lamolus as Kyong mirrors over to go visit Misery Mire. We'll see how much he looks for the unique item in there, because I'm guessing he's probably put together as well that that's probably the boots hint.
Yeah, it's an interesting call. I think it partly depends on how early that big key is. With the knowledge you can skip left side, if you get that early big key, you might still find it worthwhile to check the front half. But we could also see Kyong just make the beeline to Vitreous. Boots save time, but if you go searching in a dungeon for them, you're not going to make that time back just by having boots.
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest chance that Rywek would still have to make a comeback here is if boots were required for GT. They're in Misery Mire, Kyong skips them. But that's a very, very specific string of things for that to happen.
Well, there's a very early big key. First chest that Kyong checks on the bridge.
Yeah, that was pretty much the earliest a big key could be. Can't complain about that.
And there you have it, the boots in the other chest on the way to Vitreous. Kyong doesn't have to bother with any more chests.
Yep, that is the absolute Godmire. So there we go. We're no longer in the we might be in go mode stage of, well, the key could be on the torch. No, Kyong is in full go mode. He just has to clear out Vitreous and then go find the GT big key.
Dear Randomizer, please make every Misery Mire I ever do that good.
Maybe not that good, because that means the boots are stuck in Misery Mire every time.
Ugh, yeah, you're right. I don't want that. Oh no, oh no. Looks like Rywek did not get that Pyramid Fairy hint and is buying the big bomb to head over there. Race was already not going in his favor, but this will really not work for him.
Yeah, that was that hint at the Dark Lake Hylia area, which he did not end up mirroring over to get.
Oh, that's right, that hint in the cave that no one checks outside of Inverted.
It turned out little things like that were what really helped Kyong. You know, when he went to go to see Zora, he mirrored and did catfish at the same time. He grouped those together. He didn't have to make an extra trip. You know, he checked that hint, so he didn't ever consider doing Pyramid Fairy. Those little things, those little connections of locations. And a good chunk was checking Hookshot Cave after T-Rock, but...
You know, it's been a lot of little things for Kyong, but now he gets to go to Ganon's Tower, and there is one big thing that he's going to be looking for. Why are there all these numbers in chat, and who decided 99 was a good number?
I can get an answer to the first one, but I'm not so sure about the second one. There are 22 chests in Ganon's Tower that can have the big key, which is pretty much all we need to continue and complete the seed. And, you know, people are trying to guess which one it's going to be.
Yeah, get your guesses in chat if your number hasn't been stolen or taken already, though I think we're pretty much out of numbers at this point. Now, people who have supported Speed Gaming can get on the leaderboard if they guess first and guess correctly. I always guess chest 14, hoping for that glitched anti-fairy view. How about you?
I usually guess 22, not to be a jerk to the runners, just because I enjoy watching GT Basement Execution, and that means you see all of it.
You know, I actually hate when people guess 22 because it's being a jerk to the runners, but I like this reason you give. That's fun.
We are getting underway here. Chest 1 being a blue potion, chest 2 being $20. I also do want to point out that as we ran out of numbers, we got some ridiculous ones in there. I think my favorite being 4.2 billion.
That's a lot of chests. We'll be here through Thursday, I think.
Now, see, even for me, that's a bit too much GT execution.
Well, let's see about the Stalfos room. You always, as a runner, kind of hope it's going to be in this room so that you don't have to take care of the skeletons. You can just mirror out. But no luck there. The skeleton's bullying Kyong just a little bit, but he gets through it.
Yep, didn't have to, or didn't decide to do Dark Magician or anything as the alternate strat to avoid having to kill those skeletons, and they made him pay for not trying to avoid them.
Dark Magician is such an interesting route. You go left, you get those 4 chests, then you mirror and go right, and yeah, skipping that skeleton kill is the big reason to do it.
I'm not gonna lie, in the spring tournament brackets, I lost in 2 races to someone who did Dark Magician, and I still don't do it, but I kind of worry about it every time now.
Yeah, I would too. As an update on Rywek's side, he did get up to Hookshot Cave, got that Quake, and is doing Misery Mire right now. Probably going to get those God Boots as well. It'll save him a bit of time in Sculp Woods, but it looks like it's not going to be enough. As Kyong comes on Rando Room.
And there she is, the big key in Rando Room.
Chest 11.
Yeah, 11 it is. That's pretty early. That's about halfway through, which is arguably early just because doing the second half usually takes a long time.
I particularly like Kyong's execution throughout the basement because he came out of that on full hearts. So when he got up to that spike room with the crystal switch he had to hit, he got to use sword beams to do that, which is something you always hope to do, but is pretty tricky to pull off in practice.
Yeah, that is a nice little touch and benefit there. Takes a hit from a cannonball and manages to not fall off there, which is, you know, not always a thing that you're able to do when you take a hit on that bridge.
Oh, very nice dash through that room to just take out two of the Zizaks in one go from Kyong. This is a gauntlet that he is doing just right.
Stalvo's continuing to be jerks to him, especially that one stopping just short of his arrow, but he still just blew through that gauntlet in no time.
And another blink and you'll miss it Lambo fight, 3 silver arrows, and we are done with the middle section of this tower.
In the meantime, Rywek with a blink and you'll miss it Vitreous fight, which is now done and over with. He's got to go kill Moth before he can join Kyong and GT.
We can't blink during the Vitreous fight. There are eyeballs everywhere, but no eyelids.
That's a fair point. Slightly missing the one cycle on the second wizard room there by Kyong. Always a disappointment when you don't get that, because it's always so satisfying to get it perfect.
Kyong's got just enough magic that he is going to do this torch room without picking up that full refill first. Just a nice little way to save some time. Drains that magic bar, but he doesn't need it. He's going to be able to pick up a full jar in the next room anyways.
Yep, just means he can't, you know, powder these fairies on the start here to get his 4 hearts that he probably doesn't need back.
4.5. But no, he doesn't need them back, especially not with Blue Mail in play. That Moldorm fight had me a bit worried for him, but, you know, hold out your sword, keep pressing back onto the platform, and you won't fall off. Very well executed dash to take out that last boss.
Yep, now we get a face-off against everyone's favorite math class, Aghanim 2.
Oh, over on Rywek's side, we see him falling victim to one of those things in inverted that's just a bit weird. You need a small key for the back of Skull Woods, and you often don't have this one under the pot, so he has to go back for it.
And Aghanim 2 is dead and gone. So now he's going to turn into a bat, he's going to fly out the window, and immediately remember he can't actually fly and crash through the ceiling. And Link's going to follow out on Swag Duck and, you know, just casually land there next to the hole.
But how did the duck get here if we never found the flute?
Link learned to whistle. He talked to Breath of the Wild Link and learned some lessons.
Oh, okay. Well, this is going to be an easy Ganon fight with Gold Sword, which we've had for forever. It's just 6 hits per phase. No fancy spin setups or dashing inside the circle of bats required. Just do a good, clean, solid 6. Hookshot to avoid them. And we'll be in phase 3 very quickly.
Yep, this is a fight the devs intended as the reward for searching out all the corners and secrets in the world, so it is easy as you might expect for that kind of situation. Got one more hit for phase 3, and then he'll just need 4 silver arrows to wrap this fight up.
Rywek did get his 7th crystal, but it is not going to be enough. Kyong, not only with a, I think that was a double, but also a torch glitch.
Oh,
no.
He takes a fall.
Just on the cusp of victory. He walks into Ganon, gets bounced off the edge. Good thing he has that blue potion that actually he picked up in GT there. Very quickly, though, he'll be back in this fight and going for round 2.
And you know, for us watching, there's not much drama to that fall because Rywek is just about to be entering GT. You know, you would need a lot more than a fall to lose this. But for Kyong, that fall is, you know, terror of what if Rywek was right behind me? He's gonna finish before I get back to Ganon. Oh no, oh no, oh no. I don't know about you, but no matter how well I feel I've done in a race, if I fall to Ganon, I just instantly assume that everyone else in the race is gonna finish before I'm done.
Yeah, it's that terror of not knowing where your opponent is that sets in at about the 140 mark and just gets worse with every mistake.
Rywek went straight left in GT, which inclines me to believe that he might be thinking of doing Dark Magician.
Alright, no torch glitch this time, but with silver arrows, you don't need it to take down Ganon. That is 4 hits for Kyong. And that should do it.
Yep, barring a walk off the edge, he'll be good to go. And Rywek is doing Dark Magician, which will be the slowest route to the big key possible, with it being in Rando Room.
But Kyong has finished with a commanding lead in this race. Very well done on his part. He was so fast he might even have time for another one. But he is already here in chat. We're going to bring him in. Kyong, congratulations on that run and advancing to the next round.
Okay, thank you.
So this seed was kind of rude at some points, kind of bouncing you back and forth across the map. When you found the Hookshot in Turtle Rock, how did you think you were doing compared to your opponent in this race?
Well, Turtle Rock there was the last place I had left, so I couldn't have been feeling great, honestly. This was a seed that I feel like it would have been faster if we did all dungeons, because every single Pendant dungeon had something we needed. And that was just rough.
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, you did complete every pendant except Turtle Rock, or every dungeon except Turtle Rock and Tower of Hera. And you got most of the items from those. This was an interesting one. There was a lot of divergence between the two of you after the initial Thieves Town. You both went your separate ways a lot, but ultimately you kept getting bottlenecked by roughly the same items, and that was just because, you know, they were in these root locations.
Yeah.
Looks like Rywek accidentally fell down maybe going off NMG muscle memory. He's fighting Armos without checking Bob's chest up top. So still a bit left to go with the seed for him. Some of the big differences between you two in the race were he took a death to blind, unlike your very clutch fight.
That fight, I have a quote-unquote script because it's not really 100% to do that fight with Hammer, but it went off script. I was expecting Blind to go down in the second phase, and Blind didn't. So I just winged it. I did not expect that to work really. It was more of a let me do one try. And if I die, I just come back here later, no problem.
If I remember right, you had a fireball on its path towards you when you got that final hit. So
Yep. Yep.
and yeah, you made the Death Mountain play a lot earlier than Rywek, so you had the Fire Rod, but he picked up the Cane of Samaria from Ice Palace before he even touched the mountain.
Yeah,
So-
I can imagine that. That's kind of why I think that's what I should have had in mind to push me more towards Turtle Rock there, because I felt it was more likely that he got Samaria before me. But I ended up just trying to not go into another Pendant dungeon, but it didn't work out.
No such luck today.
So how do you enjoy having, you know, a boatload of health, light world access, like 3 swords, super early after all the brackets matches and everything at expert and hard difficulty?
Yeah, playing the higher difficulties definitely the normal one feel really easy at some times. It's really night and day. But just because it's easier doesn't necessarily mean much, because the strats are going to be different and there are still optimizations everywhere should be done.
Very true.
So you know, you've just been tearing up this tournament through group stages without a hitch, and then going 2-1 against Super Taylor, 2-0 against Rywek. Your next opponent is going to be Bonta or Willard J. Bradley. What do you think is likely to happen in that series? Because I imagine you've got your eye on it.
I really don't know. Well, I feel like it's really hard to say who gets an edge there, I feel. Because Willard did a good game 1 choice and did end up winning that one, starting that series 1-0. And I'm really not sure who's gonna get out of that.
Well, it'll be one to keep an eye on, but of course that's pretty much every matchup at this point in the tournament.
Yep.
Rywek is running through the gauntlet as well here, making his way through the ice rooms. Doing so fairly quickly, though, of course, not as fast as some of that play Kyong pulled off earlier. It's been a long time since I've actually seen someone bonk coming out of that big ice room. If you're remotely near the door and you dash, you'll usually get carried through.
Yeah, those doors are kind of weird.
So, Kyong, any other thoughts about this race that took place tonight, or the series in general?
I think not much. The city was, other than the pendant placements, was alright. It gave us a lot of different options and ways to just route everything pretty well. Some pretty helpful hints here and there, including being able to get the boots right at the end there. Other than that, I'm just really happy to get to the top 8 again after losing out on the previous 2 tournaments on both times on top 8, so I'm hoping to see if I can break my streak and get further for the first time.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. All the best. You do have a bit of break time before the top 8 starts, since that'll be happening after the week of games done quick. We're going to take a bit of a vacation for everyone, partly because many of the runners are going to be at that week-long event. Oh, Rywek. Rywek, what are you doing? Rywek, that chest is not Trinex. We don't need to be so mean to it.
Just, trying everything to make sure that it knows what's going on.
There is, in fact, no inscription on the chest that you can read with the book.
You don't need to be invincible for it either. It's not a mimic. Boomerangs, neither magical nor regular, end up working.
I've seen players taunt this chest before, especially when they know that their tournament run has finished at this point, but never to this extent that Rywek's doing.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anyone use literally every item in the game on a single chest. Just like, nope.
Oh no, and he's going, oh no, Rywek. That's important. He clearly got turned around on his way to the boss, and now that he knows where the boss is, he can go finish this dungeon.
The most useful compass you'll ever see.
Alright, let's see how this Aga 2 fight goes for him. I think he might have only got one hit in that fight, which is too bad for that wave.
Now he's breaking out the bug net. It is always nice to see people just kind of start to have some fun with stuff when they know they're done. Just don't worry about, doing things the normal way or trying to get done as quick as possible. Just have a little bit of fun with it.
Especially with something like Bugnet that's actually a legitimate skill to have. If you ever play swordless, you don't get the great spins from swords, so you're stuck with either hammer or doing those weird little Bugnet spins that have a nasty timing of their own.
Now, if only we could do Bugnet Ganon.
I think Rywek's checking his potion count here just to make sure he's got enough magic, which has me worried for any shenanigans he might try to pull. The fight itself, of course, is still pretty straightforward. Like with Kyong, only 6 hits per phase required.
Quickly to phase 3, it'll be the same as the first round of Kyong versus Ganon. can only hope that Rywek does not suffer the same fate.
There we go, fire rod. I like that pause to try to get Ganon stopped in the middle of the room to more easily set up a multiple hit. Doesn't quite work here though, and we're going to need another cycle to get that fourth arrow.
And Rywek switched off of silvers. He's going to do these last couple hits silverless, it seems.
It's a good thing he has that blue potion, because he might not have had enough magic otherwise. But I think he only needs one more hit at this point.
Yeah, so I wonder if he was planning to do more silverless, but then got the mist torch glitch, which would just make that painful.
Oh yeah. Either way, that'll do it for Rywek. With an arrow fake coming out of his neck there, he will be able to finish this race. So GG's to him. If he decides to walk through that door.
Fires the last arrow.
With the time of about 2 hours, 1 minute, and 14 seconds, he is finished as well. So GG's to him, and he may be doing an interview in French, so we'll see about when he joins us. Oh no, he's here. Rywek, GG, and I'm very glad that you had some fun at the end of that race.
Well, I had to, right? I mean, you know what? It was my last race, and just had to have fun with it. Now I can just go back to organizing new races and new tournaments.
More tournaments? We do tend to do those some days.
Yes, we definitely do. But I am pretty glad that this is over. It was my last run. I'm glad I made it to the top 16. I did not expect to get this far. I think what I'm going to do in the future is I'm going to switch over to NMG, and if I can perfect that, then maybe I'll come back to Rando and much better skills.
Not to say you don't have some now, but of course, running NMG is a good way to get that Rando time down as well.
If there is one regret I have for this seed, it's not getting Quake right away. No, it's not it. It's I forgot to go activate the flute.
To activate the flute?
Absolutely. I mean, I was right there. I had the flute. I just should have gone and activated.
It would have served you real well at the end there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it was a bit surprising to see that show up in that chest or that room behind Izar. I was half expecting it to be in its vanilla location when we saw the shovel where it was.
That's true. That's true. So I'm guessing it's Quake that really killed my run?
That would be a factor. Yeah. Partly it was the execution advantage on Kyong's side, and things
Absolutely.
like re-dipping Thieves Town to clean that up.
Mm-hmm.
Partly it was things like the return to the catfish area to get that location when you had been there earlier.
Oh yes, that was a big mistake.
Kyong picked up the flippers before you did. Went to Uncle before doing any of the Zora type stuff.
Mm.
So there was a little bit of efficiency gain there, as well as, I don't want to say fewer trips up the mountain, but more thorough trips up the mountain.
Really? I don't know. I only went up the mountain twice in total. The second time being to get Quake, obviously.
Yeah. And he did something similar. The second time he went up was to get Hookshot and Quake.
Okay.
First time he went up, he didn't have Samaria because Samaria was in that weird place of Ice Palace right side.
I was actually half tempted. Like, if I hadn't found Quake in Hookshot Cave, I was gonna go do Trinex. He had one item left.
Yeah, I was half expecting it to be important with the early Ice Rod and everything else built into it. I'm like, Trinex has to have something, right? No, just an Hookshot Cave.
All right. Well, I actually have to head over to Speed Gaming Francais to go do an interview there, so I am gonna have to say goodbye real quick.
Well, goodbye. Enjoy your French interview, and thank you so much for the run. Thanks to both racers, in fact, for putting on that run, because despite the time difference, it was a really fun one to watch and keep track of who was ahead on.
Well, I have to thank you both, Philion and Mentos, when it was quite an honor to have you both commentate my last race. I was flabbergasted when I found out, like, oh my god, it's these two, holy carp. But if you wouldn't mind, I would like to give a quick shout out to, if there's any French speakers in the audience, we are actually trying to organize the next French tourney for A Link to the Past Randomizer, and we have a tiny survey that we would like people to fill out. So if you could fill out, I'm going to put the link in the chat. So thanks for letting me do the shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. Speed Gaming has been pretty strong about picking up tournaments in other languages and trying to make that randomizer community even more global than it already is.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, and have a great night, everyone.
Thanks to you as well. Have a good night.
Looking ahead at the schedule, we are not out of matches this year. We've got 2 more coming up for you. Tomorrow afternoon at 2:30 Eastern, Jet and Glan are going to take each other on. That'll be Jet's choice of settings, and it looks like Ganon, open, randomized swords, hard mode, with a dash of key sanity thrown in there. December 31st, New Year's Eve, again at 2:30 Eastern, they're going to go for round 2 against each other and see who comes out on top. And future Game 3 still to be scheduled if that series goes to 1-1. That will be it for the new year, though. We are, of course, still running matches all up through next week, up until Friday the 4th. Then we'll take a week off while everyone goes to Games Done Quick. But we'll be back on, I think, about the 14th of January for more Link to the Past Randomizer and those top 8 matches.
Yep, and as these matches keep getting deeper in the tournament, as usual, they are getting more and more crazy in terms of what these runners are pushing on the other side. We're getting more of the crazier seeds, and it's going to be real fun to watch as this winds down.
Absolutely. On that note, these runners really did put on a good show. If you enjoyed what you saw, be sure to give them a follow. They're going to have some more Legend of Zelda play going on their streams, if my intuition is correct.
Say that's a pretty solid bet right there.
And special shoutouts to Magic Jade 47 for lighting up almost the entire HUD for these runners as they cleared more of the game than they would have liked to, I'm pretty sure.
Speaking of which, I'm surprised that Rywek's collection rate is only 171 out of 216 here. That's lower than I expected. But yeah, it's not easy to track on these races with a bunch of stuff going on and stuff all over the place. Kept up quite well.
So, Mentos Man, I think that's all the thanks we've had to cover, except for you. Thank you so much for joining me for this really fun ride through Hyrule.
Right back at you. It was a pleasure to finally get a chance to comment with you. About 3 tournaments of commentary in.
All right, thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you in the future for some more randomizer races. Good night.